We are the Institute for Intuitive Intelligence, revolutionizing intuition by training spiritually fierce women globally as qualified intuitive guides. Subscribe for the leading research and teachings on the conversation of intuition development.
Dear beloveds, I am so delighted to be here with you today on this glorious Thursday for me, wherever you are in the world. It might be a different day. And a fairly monumental time in the world, even if you are not based in the US. I think the presidential race is something that the world is experiencing. I think, the US election never happens in isolation because it really is a kind of world, sorry, my glass on the glass table, just banging over there. It's a world event, really, right? It's not happening in a bubble. It's going to have an impact on all of us. So I'm not here to talk about the election, but I am conscious of the fact that there is potentially a lot of energy moving. And for those of you who are more directly impacted, and even for those who are not, there may be some anger or fear or frustration, resentment, or you might be overjoyed. Either way, it is a compelling time. And when the whole kind of human consciousness is focused on an event like this that really does kind of garner the attention of the world, we can experience that sense that our personal energy is being impacted. And, our task is always to be really vigilant about that, and how may we hold a vibration that is greater than external evidence, and how may we support ourselves and therefore support others. And of course, the very best way for me to understand when I'm feeling afraid is to go towards that fear. So as a fear huntress, I am curious about fear. I am not afraid of fear. And my task is to go towards that fear rather than to run away from it. So what I want to share with you today is a little bit experiential. I'm going to be asking for volunteers. So if anyone here now wants to drop their name in the comment box, if you would like to be evaluated energetically by me during this live, I'll be looking into your subconscious, which I see as your subtle body, for the dominant negative self-belief that is present there today that would like to make itself known. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to show you the way that I and all intuitive guides work with fear. And we lovingly call ourselves fear huntresses because we do go hunting for those fear programs that are sitting in your subconscious and preventing the full expression of your unlimited nature, which includes the most turned on and potent intuition, right? So intuition is just a symptom or a side effect of coming back into congruence with your infinite nature. And so the only way to increase your intuitive intelligence is to clear those fear programs, which are taking up room, if you like. They're knotting up your subtle body and preventing that free flow of communication from the one mind, from that field all around you. So I would love to be able to demonstrate some of this work to you, because there's no doubt for me that when we are willing to sit with fear and not to avoid it, and I don't mean the things we think we're afraid of, but those deep things that are within us that are often concealed because they're in our subconscious and can burst out of us, in fits of rage or depression or anxiety, and require us to pause in our life and actually stop and take stock and say, okay, what is this? What is the deeper meaning here for me? That fear is a friendly ally that's calling us to remember our infinite nature. So ideally, we will learn through a really profound fearlessness, a willingness to sit with the discomfort of the fear, that fear is the problem, but it is also the solution. So fear is that which will bring us home. So thank you for those of you who are popping your names in. Stacey, Amanda, and Carissa. If anyone else would like me to evaluate, I'm very happy to do that, because it's really beautiful to share this. Partly, I love to share it because I want you to understand the work of what it is to train as a fear huntress and why it is the only healing. there is no healing unless we are working with the subconscious programs, because the subconscious is the subtle body. The subtle body is what determines the health of the physical body, and there's simply no way around that truth. So we need to be unafraid to really get down and dirty with our fear programs. And as I say, not the ones we're conscious of, because they're the easy ones, but the ones that sit below the surface and will manifest as addiction or as anxiety or stress or rage, or all these unmet physiological kind of processes that we can't fully understand until we get down and dirty with them. So I could talk for days about this, but let's do some demonstration, because I do really believe this is such potent work and so fun. When we get to the point where we can get excited about beating fear, then I feel like we found our freedom, right? It is that willingness to run towards our fear that sets us free. And Mitch, so I am very happy to do that. So what I'm going to do, just for the process so you understand, and I'd love for you to stick around until it's complete, for those of you who are being evaluated. In a normal session with an intuitive guide, we would do this as part of a much longer process. But what I'm going to do today is simply identify the dominant negative self-belief. And then I'm going to, after I've done that for each of you, we'll go into a process called heart congruence, where we're going to then shift the neurological, physiological, chemical, hormonal response to that fear, and actually move us into a completely new state of being by unknotting, if you like, that fear from the subtle body, from the subconscious. The way it works really is that my perception of that fear, me holding my gaze upon it from the vibrational space that I'm in, is already unknotting it, because it's you are being held in a container that is a higher vibration than where the fear story sits. So it's really, even the act of observing the fear begins the process of transmuting it, because we live in a participatory universe. There can't be any other way. All right, so let's begin with you, darling Stacey. Please know you're very, very safe, that identifying and releasing our fear is our freedom. This fear is ready to go, otherwise it would not present itself to me, and that this is a co-creation. You and I are doing this together, and really you are being held in the highest possible vibration, and our task is to transmute that fear and return it to its true nature, which is infinite and unlimited. So if you think of it, just unknotting that subtle body, unknotting that subtle body. And the way that we do this in the work of the intuitive guide is we identify the layers, and we may go through a number of layers until we get to that deepest gnarly layer right at the bottom, that really deep, deep fear. All right, Stacey. So we've got a lot jumping around here. There's a lot primed for release. I feel like you've worked really well on yourself, my darling, and are really, really willing to do the deep work. So there's lots of fears that are just sort of like popping up that want to be released, but we'll focus in and see which one is best for me to serve you with today. Okay, so that top layer is I am not worthy. And beneath that is I am not good. I am not a good girl is actually the statement that I can feel there. That idea of, yeah, I am not a good girl. That good girl archetype is very strong in a lot of us women. And there's a lot going on underneath that, but we're just going to follow the thread of what we've started. So that feeling of unworthiness because I'm not a good girl, because I'm not good enough. I'm never quite good enough. I'm never quite good enough. And there's a real accompanying feeling of frustration, or feeling like you can never quite get where you want to go within all aspects of your life. It's never quite where you want it to be, never quite the vision. Because there's this fear, the deep subconscious fear is that somehow I am fatally flawed, that I'm not good enough, I'm the problem. And even in observing this deepest layer of your subconscious fear, darling one, we are transmuting it by observing it from this higher level of consciousness. all of that frustration and disappointment and even grief will begin to melt away. And as we go through the heart congruent process together in just a few minutes, we'll transmute it even further. And the shadow archetype that will often accompany that is that feeling of being a victim or the victim to life circumstances. Okay, thank you for letting me see you and witness you. And we will, as I say, do a beautiful clearing together of that fear, but it's already unknotting even as we speak, just letting it go, letting it go. All right, beautiful Amanda. We have a really similar energy here to Stacey. There is a fatal flaw. There's I am fatally flawed. And this is an archetypal fear pattern that we do encounter a lot, and it can be, you know, fears are archetypal. They reappear in us again and again and again, but there's something is broken within me and it can't be fixed, and that is why things are not the way they should be. So I am fatally flawed, or I am broken at my core. And with you, my darling, as one of my beloved priestesses, we can just go straight to the deepest layer straight away, because you are working on this so actively. So it's primed for release. And even as I speak it, I know that you feel that understanding and completely understand the participatory journey that we're going on together to remove that block or obstacle to you becoming the full expression of what you are. Thank you for letting me serve you in this way. And as the saboteur is the shadow archetype associated with that fear. Carissa. Well, this one's like a neon sign just flashing at me straight away. I am unlovable is the top layer, and we'll just see if there's anything underneath that. I'm not capable of being loved. And there is the fear of I am being rejected. I am being rejected. I am rejected. And that is a deep archetypal story that has run through many, many lifetimes, as all our fears have, of course. There's only one lifetime, one consciousness. It's all happening at once, this concurrent quantum reality, but that I am rejected. It's a very, very big kind of wound at the solar plexus, and it's associated with the child archetype, the shadow archetype of the child. But likewise, you've done so much preparation to remove this so easily. It's almost like if I could just reach out and take this ball of heaviness that's sitting at your solar plexus, it's really just so ready to go because of all the work that you have done. Beautiful Mitch. Another very, very self-aware and awake human being. I can feel like there's so much willingness, like when you approach the subtle body of someone who is so immersed in their own awakening, their fears just want to fly out as soon as attention's paid. It's like, let's do all of them at once. Let's get rid of all of them. Let's just have a feel into the deepest layer of that and this is, the language of this is really strong, but I know that you are totally okay with me sharing this. So I am poison, or I am poisonous. I am toxic. There's a deep fear at that deepest core, the darkest, deepest corner of your subtle body, of your subconscious mind, of I am toxic, that I may cause harm, And the weight of that responsibility on your shoulders is so much of what spurs your work of wanting to be so ethical and appropriate and careful in your work to ensure that you do not cause harm. But the fear is unfounded. You will not and cannot. But that deep-rooted fear there is that I am toxic, or I'm poisonous, that I am going to cause harm. And I know you know how to work with that, my darling, and you will do amazingly well. And here we have the prostitute shadow archetype, because the prostitute is the one who will not fully show up in full faith to who or what they are, because they're negotiating with God or they're bargaining with God. So, and in this case, it's if I don't fully show up in the full expression of who I am, then I won't step into a role where I could cause harm, where I could be that poisonous or toxic force. So I'll just dumb myself down a little, or I'll stay away from the full expression. And that's all changing right now for you, but that is certainly something that has been there for you, my darling. Beautiful Jane, what a privilege to have you here, my darling sister. And of course, another beautiful third level graduate. So the subtle body is just so primed to release. And there's an absolute core rooted fear here that is so much of your life's work in processing and releasing this is I've been shunned or excluded by God. So by my actions, I am excluded by God. I am not worthy of being in God's inner sanctum. And that fear that sits deep at the deepest layers, because you've done so much work to release so much of this. You have to go really deep to find it, but it's all working its way through you. You work with that fear so beautifully and so confidently, but just even more permission giving that cannot be the case. That is not true. And this is the child archetype, the shadow archetype of the child who's present with that fear. Okay. Ray, you are not too late, of course, my darling. I am trouble, and this fear is so, even though I'm giggling because I know you and I have such deep love for you, there is a heaviness about that belief that I am trouble, or I'm causing trouble, that I'm a troublemaker, and that somehow is a bad thing. In fact, it's the ownership of you being a troublemaker that is your blessing. It isn't your curse, it's your blessing. Be the troublemaker, be the agitator, make the noise, take up the space, cause the disruption, be that energy. But there's fear there that being the troublemaker is to not be acceptable, to not be accepted. And that rejection fear is beneath that will cause your rejection at every level. So it's the deep idea of, if I am the full expression of the troublemaker that I am, that I will be rejected, unloved, cast out. And this is the child also, interestingly, the child who is looking for that acceptance and looking to be included and looking to be loved and adored. And it's unnecessary to be in that space, of course, when we are, in our right mind, in our right soul. All right. Mitch says I should do this for a job. Yes. All right, let me just do two more, Agat and then KJ, and then we're going to do our heart congruence, because this is where the real magic happens. What we're doing right now, obviously this knowledge is invaluable, and as we know, because we're in a participatory universe, what is observed from this higher level of consciousness is transmuted. But for us to truly ensure the atonement has occurred, that blessing has occurred, we really, really do want to have this time together in the highest possible vibration. Okay. Agat, dear beloved priestess, also this so easy to just pull this out immediately. I am unacceptable because you do the deep work so diligently. Your subconscious wants to give up its secrets very quickly. I am unacceptable. And that sits really deeply in a sense of identity. And it really beneath that is I am unsafe. Because I am unacceptable, I am unsafe in the world. And so there is a wanting to be in the world, and also a fear of the world. This is very ancient stuff. I mean, ancient, new, it's all the same, but it's I am not safe in the world is beneath that fear of I am unacceptable. I believe that's the deepest layer there. That's a really, really gnarly one. And it really feels like being in a fortress. It's impossible to penetrate. There's just this absolute sense of needing to be guarded at all times, because I'm unacceptable, therefore I am unsafe. I will be rejected. That rejection one's coming up a lot. And here we have the, well, you pretty much have all the shadow archetypes telling this story, surrounding you in this fortress energy. It's very, very interesting energy. But I would also very strongly identify the child here again. This rejection and the child seem to be quite strong, especially for us today. That fear of being rejected, for not being able to conform, not being able to participate in the way the world wants us to, means that we would be cast out, which is, as a child, that is literally our survival. If we have no community, if we have no family, if we are outcast, then we are lost. KJ, newbie, thank you for being here, dear one. I am alone. This real heavy weight of I am on my own. I have to do this. I'm in isolation. I am outcast. So here we have the rejection archetypal fear again, but here it's coming from this deep sense of having been abandoned rather than rejected. It's like abandoned. I am abandoned. I am abandoned, whether that is by God or the world. It's the deep fear beneath all of the other layers of the fear is I'm abandoned. It feels very much then that makes it very hard for you to feel safe to form long-lasting and deep relationship. That sense of to leave before being abandoned. It's a very interesting energy, and of course I find fear fascinating, so I hope you also accept when I say it's very interesting. I don't mean that flippantly. The willingness to sit with that will be so healing. It is such a deep fear, and interestingly, an archetypal fear for me is abandonment. It's going to change your life completely, to be able to honor that fear of being abandoned by the world, and to claim your place. So you cannot abandon yourself when you are in this right relationship with self. That the world cannot abandon you when you are loyal to yourself. That is a very, very potent story for you, dear one. And once again, with the shadow archetypes, here we have a number of them telling this story, but I would say here we mostly have the victim. The victim shadow is the one that's telling that story. I think you said you just got kicked off. Please listen back, because I think that was a really powerful opportunity of evaluation for you, and I hope you're able to hear it in the recording. Okay, dear beloveds, I would love for us just to join together now in a few minutes of heart congruence, which is where we have this knowledge. Yes, it's begun to be transmuted by the observation at this higher level of consciousness, but when we actually actively alter our vibration, that's where the real work is happening. And I'm going to invite you, as we do this process, if it feels right to you, to just tap on the side of your hand as we do this. As my beautiful friend Mitch would be able to share with us, this is part of the EFT process, and this can really help accelerate the release of those subconscious fear programs without us having to get too caught up in any storytelling. We're able to do this to advance what we're doing. If it doesn't feel right to do this, don't worry about it. You won't lose anything, but I'm going to do this as we move through. So if you're safe to do so, I invite you to close down your eyes. And if not, just soften your gaze on a point in front of you. And we're going to inhale, hold the breath for the moment at the top of the inhalation, and then exhale out through the mouth with an audible sigh. Doing that 2 more times in your own natural rhythm, just allowing yourself to anchor into this ever-present now. And now I want you to take 2 fingers or the palm of your hand to the center of your chest. And here, just holding your attention on something that brings you a great feeling of gratitude, appreciation, joy. It might be the feeling of the ocean on your skin, a smile from a beautiful stranger, a message from a dear friend, something very simple but very potent for you. And as you hold your mental energy on this thought, allow yourself to feel those emotions ripple throughout your body. Feel as though every cell in your being is being filled up by joy, freedom, appreciation, wonder, bliss. And keep your focus with laser-like precision on that mental image to let these feelings grow and expand, moving out from your heart like wildfire, moving out through your entire being, moving out through your subtle body that surrounds your physical body. Feeling that expansion like wildfire, burning away all the heaviness, all that does not serve you, liberating your consciousness. You feel this expansion reaching a point of fullness, like you're blowing up a balloon. And just keep holding yourself in that state of bliss, gratitude, whatever it is for you. Stay fully focused. Letting that touch at the center of your chest anchor you into your heart. Knowing that I am holding you as you hold yourself. Now taking a deep breath in through your nose, letting it go out through your mouth with an audible sigh. And when you're ready, and only when you're ready, blinking open your eyes. And for all those who were evaluated and those who were simply witnessing, my hope is that that beautiful energy we generated together, which means we've exponentially increased the potency or the power of that energy that we've manifested, will just keep rolling through you, continuing to clear that subtle body of that knot, of that fear that we've identified. And just know that meeting our fear as both the problem at first becoming the solution is how we increase our intuitive intelligence. It's how we set ourselves free. It's how we, literally meeting, those ghosts, those monsters under the bed, going towards our fear. That is the work of the fear huntress. That is the training of the third level. That is my life's mission, is to get us confident and comfortable with this work. So I want to let you know that we have a beautiful free circle, a sacred event with the High Priestess Mariam, our non-incarnate High Priestess, happening on the 12th of November. I'll share the details in this thread, but it is totally free, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. I would love for you to come and join us in circle and to really experience what it is to be in that unlimited consciousness, which is exactly how Mariam makes me feel when I am in that presence of that archetypal energy. And you're all welcome. So please do come and join us. I'll share the details. And yeah, thank you so much all for being here. Beautiful shout out to my gorgeous friend Mitch, who is a tapping expert. He's also a dream expert, and he has a program, I think, that is live now. If you're interested in learning about the intersections of intuition, dream work, tapping, he is the person to go and follow. So go find him as well. Thank you so much to all of you who allowed yourselves to be evaluated. Any questions, pop them in this thread and I will definitely come back. So much love to you all.